Let's see which one it is. The blue one, the yellow one? Blue? Okay. When I was in grade school, I saw a magician, and I was just enthralled by this. I had to figure out how he did all these things, of course. And the idea of being able to do a magic trick, well, I had to learn about this. And there was a magic trick book in the school library, which I checked out all the time. And I wanted to learn how to do these things. And it just cascaded from there. My dad, bless his heart, built a little curtains that could pull apart on a portable stage that he set up at the garage for me, so I could then invite the neighbors over and I would do a little magic show.
A classic of magic! The Chinese linking rings! Were the... Sometimes you think... The Chinese linking rings!
No, I was born in Philadelphia, but my dad was transferred to Gary. And I grew up in Gary, Indiana, which is the home for the Music Man. Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana. Gary's right on the southern end of Lake Michigan. I was always a nerd. I loved the science and math and things like that. And I didn't play any sports. My dad was an engineer, and he was a metallurgist, which is a metal specialist. My mom, she was a polka fanatic. Anything German music, and we had beer steins and decorations around the house.
Okay.
Slot car racing was a hobby. It was the engineer in me. I had to make the cars faster and better and improve them. I had a big track at home. I eventually started a group called HOPRA, HO Professional Racing Association. We created rules so that you could go from state to state and race in different contests. In the summers, I worked at a Ford dealership cleaning cars. I went to college at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, and it was in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I went there because it's a pure science and engineering school, and I wanted to become a physicist. It's something magic about science. It explains things. I loved reading Tom Swift books. I loved the science and outer space, all that stuff. And you know, when I was born in 52, so that's how old I am, so that tells you, you know, the space program and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just every cell in my body is an engineer or a scientist. It's just, you know, that's how people are, right? Some people are just artists. Some people are musicians. I'm an engineer. If you were taking a pure science degree, the school also made you take a technology degree so that you could get a job when you were, I mean, let's face it, there's not a whole lot of call for physicists. And so I took electrical engineering. I knew nothing about it. That was my motivation. I thought, let's do something you don't know anything about, Carl. So I did, and I enjoyed it. So I went an extra year and I did a 5-year double degree of physics and electrical engineering. When I was in college, I insisted actually on taking machine shop courses. My roommate and I, we both loved the idea of making things. And there was a machine shop in the college whose purpose was to make equipment for experiments. And we insisted there'd be a course you can take in machine shop theory and operation. And they realized this is important. And the school started this class. So I took all this machine shop stuff. And in the summers then, I was able to work at machine shops. Sun Engineering, I remember them. And I was the lowest. I was the guy who mucked out the oil tanks and things like that. You know, they rarely let me do any precision work. But I would do some stuff on the lathe and stuff on the milling machine and drill presses, all that stuff. That's what I did. I became an electrical engineer. I had a Fiat when I was in college, Fiats are notoriously unreliable, so of course I had to learn everything about how to repair it. So that got me into that. And my roommate in college had a motorcycle, which was fun. He'd every now and then let me ride it, and I usually bought a motorcycle, and because I could only afford old broken ones, so I became involved in repairing old motorcycles. I love it. It's the engineer again. I went to grad school at the University of Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia. They offered a program called engineering physics, and since I also had a physics degree, I said, well, might as well, and it's just how I am. I don't stop halfway. You know, okay, I got these degrees, and they gave me a master's while I was at UVA, because, well, that was in the process of doing the doctorate. It's just me. It's like, well, that's what you do. You finish. When I graduated from UVA, I took a job in Dallas with a company called Recognition Equipment. They built equipment that would scan mail for the address. So the post office would buy these to sort the mail, and they also built equipment that would recognize and sort money. And that is the Federal Reserve banks, all the cash ends up there. And then it is sorted by denomination, it is sorted for condition. Is it torn, is it dirtied, and so forth like that. And then it's rebundled and sent out to banks. And so I was hired to work on that kind of equipment. I had a little, I would say, falling out a little bit with management. I thought they weren't doing what they needed to do to promote the engineers within the company. Some of the people were not being treated very well. So I resigned and opened my own business, consulting business. Like Texas Instruments, I worked for them, and some government contractors who were building stuff for space shuttle type stuff or satellites. And that's what I did for the rest of my career. I just started dating a girl, and she said, let's go to this dance. And I went, huh? Well, okay, baby. No, I don't think I used those words, but so I went with her to the dance, and it just stuck. I had a good time, and just kept going. I play the English concertina. I play the melodeon, which is a bigger squeeze box, and then I play the trombone. For a while there, I was learning the banjo, so I would have the trifecta of annoying instruments. And I was always a trombone player all the way through from 7th grade on up. I decided I wanted to learn to play the trombone, which appalled my parents. They loved German polkas, and they encouraged me to learn the accordion. But the trombone is so weird, it just fits my personality. And the trombone is so crazy. I mean, what is this? It doesn't look like anything else. So I decided to learn the trombone. I used to go to Pine Woods Dance Camp, run by Country Dance and Song Society. And one year, at the end, a group performed Rapper Sword. And I had never seen it before. I didn't even know what it was that was being taught that week. And I saw Morris at the same time there, and Rapper just amazed me. And it's, it's kind of a mathematical thing too. In fact, it was funny, if you went to a lot of camps, you'd see a lot of guys, you'd ask them and say, what do you do? And they say, I'm a physicist, or I'm a mathematician, because a lot of the figures in English dancing and Contra dancing, all that, you can describe mathematically. And the Rapper Sword is the same way. There's a math to it. It's a topography type of thing. I just saw Rapper and said, I have to do this. So I bought a bunch of swords, and this was back when I was still in Dallas, and just started a team. And then we kept throwing in weird little bits. It's a wacko routine. I mean, some people say it's not as precise as other teams, but it's crazy entertaining.
And the company's wasting hours waiting, tossing to see how you feel with your swords. Oh, no, the hat! Oh, get the phone, Jay!
There was a chain of restaurants in the country called Old Spaghetti Warehouse. Every Friday night, I would be there and walk from table to table and do magic tricks at the table to entertain people. Actually, I got paid for this, and then I'd make tips too. And sometimes, if there was a table with some kids, I'd blow up balloon animals and twist them and things like that for kids. That is a trial by fire, because people they're watching you, and you have to, and they would come back, so you'd have to have different tricks, you know. Sometimes people would bring their friends back to see me again, and they'd say, "Oh, do that trick where the coin ends up in your shoe and it fools everyone." Yeah, thanks. Thanks for spilling the ending. Or sometimes they'd say, "Oh, do that great trick where you turned green and floated in the air." Yeah, you sure that was me? I learned quite a bit by doing that, and I got pretty good at it. There are magician societies, and they have conventions, and they have contests. One year I won the TAOM contest. This is the trophy for winning the Texas Association of Magicians, and it's a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. And having won TAOM, I got booked into the Magic Castle in Los Angeles, which is like Carnegie Hall for magicians. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal experience. Oh, welcome to Carl's shop. I bought this old home in Dallas, and I have always been a motorcycle and car buff. And so I was looking for a place that had a big garage. And I found this house, the blower part was perfect for me for building a shop for working on cars and motorcycles. And I made the upstairs where I would live. And I said, you know, this could be a dance hall. It wasn't that big a dance hall, but I had a friend of mine, and we put in a hardwood floor. And the early dances for the North Texas Traditional Dance Society were held up there. It wasn't big enough for a big Contra dance, but it was big enough for people to get together and have fun. We had some English dances up there before we were able to find a regular church hall. It was perfect for my rapper team and also for the Morris team to practice. I started a Morris team back in Dallas, so I was already a Morris musician. There were people in Dallas who wanted to start a Contra dance. And so I was one of them. So we just got together and we decided, well, let's organize North Texas Traditional Dance Society to do Contra dancing. Come on in, we'll teach you. That to me is really important. It's the community feeling, involvement of it. I've always been very, very anxious to welcome beginners. Say, it doesn't matter, come and have fun because you're welcome here. I mean, how can you not love that? There were very inexperienced callers. I wanted to do it, so I thought I could do it. So that's where I started calling that. And I started teaching some English dances when we started doing that in Dallas. I'm a natural ham, so calling, I was never really nervous. My wife, Charlotte, thinks I must have been a sheepdog in another life because I like to boss people around or push them around or something like that. I prepare many, many hours of preparation and rehearsal because you want it to be right. If you ask people, why did you become a teacher? I love it so much, I want to share the joy. And the same thing's true for me. I want to share how much I love it. My motto is never call a dance you've written. And the problem with calling a dance you've written is, in your mind, it's perfectly obvious how it goes. And you know, if you call a dance that you've written, and you do it well, the people say, well, so what? He wrote it. And if you screw it up, they say, what a putz. So, someday I'm going to publish a book called Don't Ever Call These Dances. My problem with dances I've written is they're mathematically perfect. They just lack one little thing, and that is they're not fun. I try to write new figures that people have never done before, and the mathematicians have a term called consistent, which is theoretically everything fits perfectly, but that doesn't mean they're fun to do. Some of the dances, they take a long time to teach, but they're just involved and complex enough that they excite me mentally. And then there's others where I feel the emotion of the dance. And this is what I want to try to teach more. Sometimes we focus on the geography of the dance, getting the figures precise. But some dances, there's moments, we used to call them magic moments, where you get it and it just goes, oh, you just feel this moment with the music. I've always been a fan of land speed record racing. A lot of people don't know what that is, but if you've ever heard of people racing across the Bonneville Salt Flats, land speed record racing is all about the fastest speed you can achieve over a measured mile. And I loved it so much, I decided one time I have to get involved somehow. So I did the research and looked up what records existed and what might be approachable. And of motorcycles sounded like something I could do, since I was already into motorcycles. And I hunted around and I found a class, Production 125. And I found that that record was what they call soft, which means it hadn't been attempted in a while and was approachable. I was able to get hold of a 125cc Italian motorcycle. A friend of mine from Dallas and I went to the Bonneville Salt Flats and we broke the record. For a while there, I held the record, which was, I think was 93 miles an hour. I'd have to go look at it. It's not really screamingly fast, but this is an engine that's this big, you know? We set it, and then a couple years later, somebody did the same thing. But I still have the motorcycle. We decorated the motorcycle with the symbol of the rapper swords on the side of it. And so we called ourselves the fastest rapper dancers. Charlotte and I met dancing, and I thought, oh, this is a red-haired beauty. And she dances, oh boy. She had a good career. She worked for the federal government, Health and Human Services. And she's hardworking, industrious, and she's a dancer. You ought to see her in a green velvet gown with the red hair. Oh boy. I kept traveling around, going to dances and going to places, and I'd bump into her every now and then. And I knew she was in Washington, D.C. at that point. I had to go out to Washington on some job stuff. And I called her up and I said, can I take you out while I'm here in Washington? And that was the start. One day I said, why don't we go to Winter Dance Week together? And I proposed, and we lived in Washington for quite a while before we moved back to Dallas. When Charlotte and I got married, we were looking for gifts for the people in the wedding party. And we looked at the nice gifts and found out they were all really expensive. And so we looked at the less expensive gifts and decided they're really tacky. So we decided to embrace tacky. So we bought bowling shirts for everybody. My best friend in Dallas, his advice to me when I got married was, don't be a pest. And so I need to turn around so you can see the back of my shirt. I was on the board of Country Dance and Song Society. I was reading through the newsletter, and there was an ad in the back for Winter Dance Week at John C. Campbell Folk School. I had no idea where that was, but that sounded like fun. But I knew Bob Dulcimer from other events, and it said featuring Bob Dulcimer, and I knew that anything Bob was associated with was going to be gold. So I wasn't married at the time. I was living in Texas, and I just packed up and drove my truck out to the John C. Campbell Folk School, 850 miles from Dallas. I had a wonderful time and decided I needed to come back more often. One year I came back, and this is just the ultimate arrogance. I was a rapper dancer by that, and I had a team. I threw all my swords in with my truck, and I showed up and I got here, and it's like, hey Bob, you don't have anything planned, do you? And I said, no, and I didn't quite use it like that. I said, can I teach a little rap, can I put a little rapper group together? And he said, sure. There were 5 guys staying in the Roundhouse, I think it was. And so I got them, and he gave me time to put a little class together to teach rapper for these group of people. And then we did a performance at New Year's Eve.
Now, ladies, gaze on these strapping young gentlemen. Their strength, their virilness. Now watch. Take it all. As they fly through the air, for theirs the legend of Brasstown.
And it went really well. And he continued to invite me back to teach rapper class. And then one of the times I came back, Bob usually ran the Brasstown Follies. And he had seen me do magic shows and so forth at other camp events. And he said, would you like to run the Brasstown Follies, which is like putting a red meat in front of a dog? I said, of course I would. So I did, and I've been coming back ever since.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brasstown Follies! We are going to have a great time tonight, just as soon as we get this show over with.
So I just fit in here. And one of the years we came here, and I saw the sticks in the mud. I was just so enthralled that this was a local community doing this kind of stuff. And I said, I have to move here. One of the summers in Dallas, it averaged like 110 degrees or something like that. And we said, we gotta get out of here. And retirement was coming up, so duh! Why are we driving 850 miles every Christmas? Why don't we just move here? And so we did, and love it. We came from a metroplex of 4 million people to Brasstown, which is more of a concept than an actual place. It was a big change, but we love it here. And I love the community and the people. The only thing I would change if I could, we desperately need an Indian restaurant. That's the only thing I really miss.
Greetings. I am the mystic Carl, the soothsayer of Clay County. I have in my hand envelopes with questions that people have written down, sealed in these envelopes, and have been in a pickle jar on Clay's Corner since Tuesday. Using only my incredible mental capacity, I shall now divine the answers to these questions. The first question. The answer is Faldy-raldy-raldy-row. Faldy-raldy-raldy. There's an echo in here. And the question is, what do you call the eggs from a faldy-raldy-raldy fish? Am I right? But of course, the mystic Carl knows all.
I was always a huge Johnny Carson fan. You know, he would tell a joke knowing it was going to bomb, and then the reaction to the bomb was the important part. In the Follies, I always did the Karnak the Mystic routine, except it was a Carl the Mystic, where he was like, and the answer to the question is, and the question was, that type of thing. I love that kind of humor, and I'm just, it's the absurdity of some of it. Most dance camps have a talent show, and the Brasstown Follies was started by Bob, who was running Winter Dance Week for a long, long time. He had seen what I had done as far as other stuff, and he told me, he says, hey, you want to organize it for this year? That was just too much. When I came back, I had to do it again and again, and I've often said, the only way you'll get the Follies out of you have to pry them from my cold, dead hands, you know. I just love putting it on. It's just my thing. I'm just a ham, that's all there is to it, and a showman. Morris team used to call me Mr. Microphone because I had no problem standing up and just announcing things and saying stuff. And that's who I am. The one we've opened with now for years is Robert Swarthies and Verley Spivey, who wrote the Possum Drop song. And it's now tradition.
In Brasstown's fair city, where Miss Possum's quite pretty, they have an event that they call Possum Drop. If you're feeling quite blue and you've nothing to do, you should watch that old possum go plop. Oh, possum drop, oh, possum drop, oh. They have an event that they call Possum Drop. Oh, possum drop, oh, possum drop, oh. It's fun to watch that old possum go plop.
It just became a big joke, everything about possums around here. So I have this great big sign that looks like the marquee with the lights that go around and around and says Brasstown Follies on it, you know. And when they approach it, there's this lit up sign with the lights running around it. And then I was watching a movie where they have the searchlight. And well, I saw that and that inspired. I had to have some possums pushing the searchlights back and forth. So I built some animated possums and got some stage searchlights. So they're out there in front of the front door.
Well, okay, since I'm the professional magician, I will loan you my hat, but just for this show. I don't know what happened here. Oh. There we go.
We're doing magic tricks was part of my MC thing for the Follies. People now expect it. I'm expected to do stuff, and it keeps me on my toes. I constantly have to. The dang thing about the folk school is people keep coming back. So every year I have to have a repertoire that expands a little bit, new magic tricks and all that. And I'm constantly researching bits or coming up with stuff. A lot of it's preparation. To think ahead. What if this goes wrong? What's my cover line? Or what else can I do? Maybe I have another trick that I can do. But in my case, it's usually some joke that makes fun of me, because that's part of my act anyway, is making fun of me. My favorite trick that I've done at the Follies is where I appear to put a lit match in my hand, and it disappears, and then I explain to everyone how it was done. I say, what I really did was this. I take the lit match and put it in my mouth. And what's so funny about that is the first one, what I put in my hand, actually is a trick with sleight of hand, but the explanation is real. I actually do put a lit match in my mouth, and everybody thinks that's a trick. It's not. It's a little bit of fire eating, where you learn to do it without burning yourself. Anybody who's watching this, don't try it. I'm not endorsing trying to put a lit match in your mouth. There's been so many good acts. There's been some people that I've met walking around who just are sort of just so quiet. And they said, I'd like to sing a song. Okay. And then they get up and they just, a grand slam. They just kill it. And who knew? You wouldn't know it until they got up there and sang. And just so much heart behind it. And that's been my joy. There is no better audience than the Brasstown Follies audience, because they know the person that's up there is them, who's shy, who has no idea they're going to sit up there before 90 people, and they do it anyway, and they kill it. So that's part of my great joy of doing the Follies. I'd just like to say to everyone that contributes to the folk school, and especially the Morris teams, how much I love them and how honored I feel to be allowed to play for them and help them. I want them to remember that I've given everything I can. So I told people that I think part of my reason for being on, that God put me on earth, was for people to look at me and say, well, if that idiot can do it, I can do it. It's nothing but a sprout, but it's well budded out, the work of the Lord's own hand. I'm not a great musician, I'm not a great singer, but you had a great time laughing and singing with me. You can get your friends together and pluck out a tune on a ukulele or bang it out on drums, whatever. You can do this too. What's in you is entertaining and you can have a great time.